message, and the text message asked me, how do you raise a girl in modernized times that is so different from the 80s and 90s, where there has been, so much influence from social media as well as from their peers, and you're wanting your daughter to remain acting her age as opposed to, acting grown up. Me being a mom of three, of course, I have a daughter who's 18 and two sons, one that is 20 and one that is 17. And, it can be challenging at times. One of the things that I had to keep in mind was I parented with the end in mind. What I wanted my children to look like as adults made me instill values in them when they were babies, because I wanted to make sure that they had values and character, a positive character as adults. And so it is very important as parents that we are instilling these values in our children at a very young age, as opposed to waiting until they are, teenagers or even, young adults to try to instill values. So making sure that you are setting that stage early on will help you to be able to be the bigger influence in your child's life as opposed to social media. So here's some things that I would like to share with you that could help you in the event that you're faced with something as this as well. Number one is positive affirmations. It is so important as parents that we speak positive over our children's lives, especially our men. If you have daughters, being able to speak positive to them. Tell them that you love them. Tell them how beautiful they are. Tell them how proud of you are of them. And making sure that they understand that hearing it from a man, especially a father, is so important, because young ladies can get so caught up when, guys are giving them attention that they can sometimes forget their value and worth, because they're trying to be this particular young lady or this image, to this young man who is showing them some attention. And it could be the wrong type of attention, and the motive behind, of course, why this young man is so interested in your daughter could be wrong as well. But when you have parents or a father that is instilling these type of positive affirmations in his daughter, it will help them to use better judgment when they are approached by these young men. Number two, be a man of influence in her life. Take your daughter on dates. Show them what it's like to treat a woman. Show them what it's like for a man to be respectful. Show them what it's like to have self-respect as a young lady. This is so important because they need to know that they don't have to turn to the internet or to various rappers or movie stars that they're looking up to get this influence. They have positive influences at home, and they understand what the difference is between the media definition of, beauty is as opposed to what reality is. And that is being comfortable in your own skin, being comfortable with how God has created you to be and how He's created you to look, and love yourself. Spending quality and quantity time with your daughter is so important as well. Many times we can get so caught up in our own lifestyle as parents that we forget to make sure that we're spending time with our children. From experience with myself, with my three kids, one of the things that we would do is on Fridays, we would have what's called movie night. And if we couldn't do it on Friday, we would do it on Saturday. So this was a time for us to bond and me to be able to build a relationship with my children. In addition to that, we sat down and ate dinner together at least 3 times a week. Now, before they started to get older and get involved in extracurricular activities, we could sit down and eat dinner every day. But making sure that you're spending time with your children, sitting down and actually giving them your undivided attention, as opposed to trying to talk to them in between you being on the phone with someone else or work. Number 3, limiting their exposure to the internet. This is a big one. And again, these are values that I instilled in my children when they were before the age of 3 years of age. My children did not have access to watching R-rated movies. For example, I had a code on the television. And also, I would monitor if it was a movie that they wanted to watch. If it was R-rated, I had to look at the rating to see what makes this movie R-rated. If it had a lot of drug or violence or sex in the movie, they couldn't watch that. And I had to explain to my children why this was important, why you can't, watch in and everything, because I don't want that, of course, to get into your spirit, because you are, as they say, you are what you eat. You can also become what you watch. The same thing with music. My kids could not listen to vulgar music, and they may have snuck and done some things that I may not be aware of, but when I found out about it, if they were listening to something that was not appropriate, they immediately had that deleted from their phone, or they would be put on punishment. And I explained to them how important it is to be careful of what you put before your eyes, what you're listening to. This is so important, because if you're constantly, for example, listening to music talking about killing, then eventually you may feel like, I need to handle my disputes by going out here killing somebody. So I wanted to make sure they understood how important it is to watch movies that were positive, and music, listening to music that was positive, as opposed to the negativity and the energy that comes with bad movies and music. Number 4, I look for teachable moments with my children. For example, when I was talking to them about appropriate dress, if we're out in the store and I may see a young lady that is not dressing appropriately, maybe she has on clothes that are very revealing, I would explain to my sons and my daughter of how this is a lack of respect for oneself, and explaining to my daughter how important it is to make sure you cover up. I put a meme on Facebook that I shared from someone else's post that said, if you're showing ass first, then men are going to look for ass first. So you have to be careful of what you're promoting, what you're showing. My daughter is 18 now, and I still, will check her on, hey, you need to look at that again. You can't wear that. Make sure you put something over this, or you need to sew this up. She's a seamstress, so if it was something that I felt was had a lower cut or something, I would make her sew that up. And so I wanted her to understand how important it is to be self-respected even in your dress, and how you treat yourself is what you're allowing other people to do to you as well. And also men wearing saggy pants. I explained to my sons, look, you don't go out the house looking that way. And I told them, I never will forget when they were younger, you represent 3 people when you leave this house: God, yourself, and this family. And you're not going to disrespect either of us. So make sure that you're looking decent when you go out. Make sure that your pants are on you correctly. Make sure that your shoes are clean, and just different grooming things that I share with them, because I wanted to make sure that they look presentable when they left the house. Excuse me. And number 5, monitoring your child's friendships. This is another thing. We have to make sure that we are aware of who our children are hanging around, because again, these are people that can influence our children. And so my kids, when they would come home from school, I would ask them every day, how was school today? Oh, Mommy, was good. Okay, what was good about today? And so I would get them to open up about how their day was. And then they would, of course, come to me and talk with me. Mommy, guess what? This happened today. And so when they're mentioning different people's names, I'm able to become familiar with who they're speaking with. And if I'm over at the school, okay, yeah, this is who my son was talking about. Also, I monitored my children's behavior. If their attitude was off or they started to act different, the first thing I would do is make sure that I, as the parent, was not doing something, that may not be of a good example to my children. And then I would look at, okay, who are the outside influences? So you have to pay attention to your child's behavior and mannerisms. When things start to change, there is an influence somewhere, whether good or bad. Another thing that I share with my children is, the importance of selecting good friends. My children understood that, hey, you can't hang around people that don't, excuse me, let me back up. You can't hang around people that don't have the same values as you. So if I'm teaching you to be respectful, to not steal, to not lie, to not cheat, to not check people, to be respectful of others, if you're hanging around people that are doing the opposite, guess what? You're going to start doing that. So I made sure that they understood at a young age that you are leaders. So people look up to you. Make sure that you're setting a good example. Another thing they understood is that If you call me because you've been picked up by the police for some foolishness, you can't call me. I told them the only time I want you to call me, and God forbid they, ever in any situation where the police are involved, but I said the only time you need to call me concerning the police is if you've had to defend yourself. Don't call me because you were with Lil Johnny and Lil Johnny got picked up for stealing. Or, Lil Johnny got picked up for something else. I said, don't call me for that. Or Lil Johnny was drinking. You can't call me for things like that. I said, because if you do, you're on your own. I can't help you. You've been raised, you know better. So be careful of your friends, because again, your friends could be doing something wrong. And if you're with them and the police pull you over, guess what? Both of you all will be in trouble. So make sure that you are very selective and careful of the friends that you chose. And if I felt like my kids were being influenced by somebody that in a negative way, then I had to let them know, no, you can't hang around this person. You can't do this because, number one, they're older than you. You can't hang out with them. My kids had curfews, and they still have curfews. When my oldest son, Brian, was at home, he had a curfew. I think it was 10 o'clock when he was in high school, maybe like the 10th grade. And I think when he became in the 11th grade, it may have been 11 o'clock. And then as a senior, it may have been 12 o'clock. So they couldn't come in all hours of the night. As parents, we have to set boundaries for our children. We have to set rules in place, because if not, they're going to run over you. And if you have not set values and rules in your children at a young age, when you try to do this when they're 16, guess what? They're going to be like, who are you talking to? What you mean I can't go here? What you mean I can't do that? You've been letting me do it. So we have to make sure that we're not friends to our children, that we are parents. It's a time to be friends with your children, and that is when they become, in my opinion, 25. Until then, they're not your friend. You still need to be revered and respected as the parent, not as your child's friend. Children need parents. They need discipline. They need guidance. And what better way to do that and to learn that than from home, as opposed to learning it in the streets. Thank you for joining me today on Conversations with Candace. Please feel free to visit our website at www.freeman-mediation.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Candace Freeman, the number 7. And of course, on YouTube, Conversations with Candace.